and safe quality of food for AICA here in Mexico. And on behalf of our representative, Dr. Diego Montenegro Ernest, and on the leader of the project, Mrs. Alejandra Diaz, who is in AICA's headquarters in Costa Rica, we give you a warm welcome. I really thank the panelists for having accepted this invitation. For us, it is very pertinent to inform what we are doing in Mexico and in Central America, and particularly to share experiences. Not only the good things, but also the bad things, to avoid others to make the same errors, or to be careful to prevent some practices that we saw do not give results in other places. This experience sharing is really important. I really appreciate the exposition of the organizations. I would like to particularly thank Senacica, the Secretary of the Environment, the Association of Zoos from the Mexican Republic, as well as our colleagues from Senasa, Costa Rica, and INSAC, the authority responsible of the environment in Costa Rica. I also thank my colleague, Dr. Sasha Treyes. She made a contact with Senasica staff. She is also an expert on agricultural health, food safety and quality. I really thank you. We also thank Dr. Claudio Macani, our consultant, as well as the staff that always accompany us. Mariana, Ricardo, the interpreters. Thank you very much for all this. Our consultant, Diego Soto. So many appreciations for you all, and particularly for you. And we hope that this experience will be productive and with a lot of sharing. For this sharing, Dr. Marconi, our consultant, will support us for this sharing experience. This is going to be almost by the end, and following the agenda that I will show in a while. So very quickly for you to take a look at the agenda. So following the agenda, my apologies, I included the English agenda. We have the welcome, then Dr. Mari Palma with the status of knowledge regarding the impact of the New World screwworm in wildlife, and the Senacica actions for the prevention, control, and eradication of the New World screwworm by Dr. Armando Garcia Lopez, Director of CPA in Senacica. After that, we're going to listen to Dr. Luis Antonio Gomez Mendieta with the management of diseases and pests in wildlife. And after that, Dr. Victor Manuel Campuzano with the actions for the prevention of the New World screwworm in wildlife in Mexico. Dr. Randall Arguedas and the biologist Carol Sanchez with actions for the prevention of New World screwworm in wildlife, Costa Rica. Dr. Arguedas is part of SENASA, and the biologist Carol to Sina. After that, we're going to have a group discussion with Dr. Marconi and some closing remarks by our project leader, if she is with us at that time. Right now, she is not in the headquarters, but if possible, she will join this meeting. Thank you. Okay, so let's move to the first presentation, and some words about the cook's purpose by Dr. Marie Palma. Go ahead, Doctor. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here in this space, which is not only technical space, but deeply human. When we talk about the screwworm, we are not talking only the pest, we're talking about biodiversity, public health, and of course, the shared responsibility we have as a region. I want to thank particularly Dr. Rocio Campuzano for the invitation to this webinar. Her leadership and call reflect something that is vital today. We need to understand that no one can face this challenge alone. I also would like to recognize and thank the professionals from other countries in the region who are with us today. Their experience, their commitment, and their willingness strengthen this collective effort and remind us that this challenge is truly shared. Today, we have key institutions such as Senacica, Semarnat, especially the General Directorate of Wildlife, USDA, and AICA, of course. But beyond that, what is truly pertinent is what they represent when these institutions work together. Real international cooperation, technical coordination without borders, a collective response to a problem that does not recognize borders. From Ascarm, we want to send a message of commitment. I take this opportunity to send a greeting from our president, Mr. Ernesto Sosueta. For us, the zoos and aquariums and conservation centers from Mexico do not want to be spectators. We want to be active allies. We work in the field, in the clinics, in education, monitoring. We are points of early detection. We are also shelter spaces and also bridges with society. Wildlife does not recognize administrative boundaries, and neither does the screwworm. For this reason, coordination between authorities, the academia, and the civil society should not be an option. It is the only effective way. This webinar is an opportunity to share experiences, refine protocols, and to strengthen the trust between us. Because at the end of the day, beyond the institutions we represent, what reunites us is the same conviction to protect life. Without further ado, I'm going to briefly talk about some historical aspects of the screwworm and wildlife. Thank you for your attention. The truth is that we are really thankful and happy to be here with you. So let me share the screen. This is a presentation, very short, because at the end of the day, beyond the historical topics, we have a lot of topics to talk about. And I believe this is a good reference framework. The truth is that there are just a few data in relation to wildlife. This is complicated. We know that the screwworm can be a serious risk in populations at risk. There are some examples. There are populations that are quite threatened because of a loss of the habitat, climate change, illegal hunting. And there is another aspect that I consider very important in relation to the screwworm, and this is that it is not always as evident as it is. This is maybe due that the affected animals go away from their population. They hide to avoid being damaged. So we need to say that the behavior, and here this is going to be reflected in the type of wounds we're going to observe. We know that in cattle, for now, the wounds may give an opportunity for the screwworm to come in. In the newborn populations, the cordon is a risk place. But here we face different things. For example, males from different species, when they start struggling for territories, and with the presence of the screwworm, this could be complicated. We also have ones because of ticks, ones because of the predators, or even because of the same hunting, legal or illegal. We have had some cases. We talked about this in Chihuahua last year. So there are reports from 100 years ago. From the 30s, there were some reports in case of deer, raccoons. One of the most important things is that happened in Florida in 2016. Why? Because for the first time we saw a whole population affected. And here we made some mistakes, just the way to speak. Some mistakes were made, mistakes that took us to understand, that made us understand several things. Animals were in the open field, they were not buried. And this uh, uh, promoted the disease continued infecting other animals. This is very important. So from there, the recommendations were made in relation to the disposal of the corpse. So a Magni Rostis group is an eagle, which is very common. So we're used to see this in mammals, but we need to understand that it is not only for in the case of mammals. Last reports that are of concern have been in some pumas in Yucatan. Fortunately, we have not found them in other species affected in Southeast. It does not mean that it does not exist. It is much more difficult to see it. There is a report of the European boar or wild pig. So in South America, historically, jaguars, uh, monkeys. Lastly, we had a case of a Tarawato monkey, but the alarms turn on because we have a problem in the populations in Mexico. The Tarawato populations in Mexico, normally they are not hunted for food. So that was common long, many years ago. Today we have other problems. If animals survive, they can be prone to the screwworm, and it seems that was the case. Historically, there have been some examples in animals under professional care in zoos and breeding places. The hippopotamus, for example, is of concern because it is not an animal easy to treat. So it was a wound on a tooth. So that turns on alert historical. We didn't see that in Mexico before. Same thing in other animals. Almost all the cases have occurred in South America. Finally, let me show you this infographics. We distributed them in the zoos of the association. We work on 80% of the zoos that exist in Mexico. It does not mean that we have not been able to distribute the images before, as well as the flyers of the authorities. And basically, we have tried to help having conversations with the physicians, with the veterinarians, because sometimes we have already things in our head and we do not think about the screwworm. I believe this has been good both for training of our veterinarians as well as I said in the beginning, to be able to become a place of early diagnosis. And this contact that we have with the authority and other civil organizations, civil society organizations. So this is basically, thank you for your attention. any question, any doubt, I will be here.
Perdón, ¿se escuchó?
Excuse me, did you hear me? Yes, we did.
Sí, correcto.
Yes, that's correct.
Muchas gracias. Ya le damos la palabra
Thank you so much.
a Rocío, quien retoma
We're going to give the word to Rocio. Just hold on for a while.
Dígales que es usted. Entonces tú bajan el volumen.
Ya.
Y aquí, doctora, suban el volumen porque tenemos solo el volumen de Nicole. ¿Ya está conectado? Sí, pero está hasta abajo, porque si no se van a interferir los micrófonos. Ya lo escucho aquí.
Dígame,
Me sacó mi computadora, ¿me puedes volver a
Sorry,
hacer?
apologies. My computer has kicked me out of the meeting.
Ahí
If
te
you could please
escuchamos,
let
Rocío.
us in.
Estás,
Rocio, we hear you. I think you are connected.
estás como panelista.
You're on as a
Gracias, ¿ya me
panelist.
pueden
Oh,
ver?
thank you. Can you see me?
sí, te vemos y te escuchamos.
We see you and we hear you.
Una
Yes.
disculpa que tuve un
Apologies.
problema
I had
con el
some
original y
problems with my
volví a otra vez.
first
Una
computer. I had
disculpa.
to switch over. Please forgive me.
Gracias, Mari. Bien,
Thank you, Marie.
vamos a pasar a la
So
siguiente
now we are
presentación,
going
por
for
favor.
our next presentation, please.
¿Me pueden poner la agenda, por favor,
If
Mariana?
someone could
¿Puedes?
please share the agenda.
Sí, ya te la comparto.
Sure.
Bien, damos paso a la presentación.
All right, so let's go on to our presentation
del doctor Armando García López.
by Dr. Armando Garcia Lopez.
Nos avisa cuando esté listo, doctor.
Just let us know, doctor, when you're ready.
Gracias, Mariana.
And thank you, Mariana.
Listo. Primero que nada, pues, no
I'm ready. First of all, I would not want to begin without thanking you and all of IICA for the opportunity to be here with you, interacting. It's a great occasion to be able to share some of the actions we're undertaking as authorities. I'm saying authorities, although I represent the Mexico-United States Commission for the Prevention of Foot and Mouth Disease and other diseases in animals, but because it has been joint work. We will see in our presentation how we have been integrating to do the specific work on the screwworm in wildlife, which opens up a whole landscape of cooperation among different institutions and agencies. As an introduction, I would like to say that at first we were like the Tower of Babel. Everyone was talking in their own language, but we have finally found a kind of sign language, if you will, that has allowed us to connect very well and progress. You will soon see what is being done in Mexico to work jointly under the scheme, the One Health approach. But we will only be referring right now to animal health, whether wildlife or commercial. So I will share my screen. Yes, thank you. Go ahead. And well, my presentation will just be a brief overview of some general aspects. I don't want to get into all the details. You know the cycle of the fly, 21 days. You will know perfectly what are the important factors within the cycle, where the most important features are the fact that the female lays its eggs in live tissue for all hot-blooded animals. That includes any species that we will be covering today. It does not distinguish commercial from non-commercial wildlife. Obviously, it doesn't make any difference also if it is a human being. They have a large number of eggs they lay. They proliferate, and so the control of this disease has to be holistic. It has to cover different perspectives, various aspects, and handling all the different obstacles and barriers. Everyone within their scope of competence. We all respect each other, but we coordinate fully. The situation in Mexico is probably the main topic we should be looking at, because it does call our attention. The opportunity of being here today and sharing this with you allows me to provide official information. By official, I mean that this is evidence-based. Everything else you might hear are only comments, but don't necessarily have the substantiation. We have 20,657 accumulated positive cases as of last night in the country. Of course, this changes every day. You can see the distribution from the south. We've been monitoring Belize and Guatemala for obvious reasons, because we share some reserves there, such as the Canarmón Nature Preserve and the Petén area in Guatemala. You can see the progress from south to north, which is how the fly moves. When we report cases and say that we have active and inactive cases, no one can really know how many animals are affected as of today. So active does not mean that we have animals that are releasing larvae constantly, and that's why they're active. That's not the concept. We had to differentiate somehow, very schematically, to look at a controlled case and a case that was not controlled. So active cases means the animals that have been treated, that are cured, but have not fully healed their wounds. So because they have not healed their wounds and there's no scarring, then it's an active case because it's still at risk. They're active as long as there's no scarring. What of course, this means is that it does not have any larvae, but also inactive means no wounds as well. So the stars are the solved or inactive cases, and active cases is 1,299 as of last night. And of the 20,677 accumulated, and here again, when they talk about 20,000 cases in Mexico, people might think that all these are affected, but it's not the case. These are all the cases that have come up since November 2024 to date. All the others are inactive, already healed. The diseases are looked at by epidemiological week. You can see the trend in the curve at the end of 2025. We see how there was a drop. This happened in all cases. This is December, where the ranching activities, surveillance is reduced because it's the holidays, the Christmas time. And then starting 2026, you see again the trend in the number of cases, again, going upwards, looking at spring coming into Mexico, which means higher temperatures, blooming flowers, and so that means a greater possibility for the spread of the fly. I will now talk about in general terms to the states, because people from outside Mexico might not know all the states in Mexico. But here we have the state of Chiapas. It's the one with the most accumulated cases and the largest border with Guatemala. We then have two other states over here. Oaxaca and Veracruz. Veracruz is up here that I'm pointing with a cursor. It does not have a border with Guatemala, so that calls our attention. Then we have Yucatan. That one does not have a border with Guatemala either. The other two cases, Campeche and Tabasco, they do have a shared border with Guatemala. That lets us see how the fly is progressing. It is coming from the south, but it has already gone beyond the borders or the border states, and it has spread to the north of the country. In Mexico, we have two very important biological corridors, the Gulf Corridor and the Pacific Corridor. And they have ideal conditions for the proliferation of the fly and its spread. In the corridor towards the Gulf, it's most common because this is also the commercial route that has the less distance to the center of the country. Moving around here to come to the center of the country is farther away than if we go through the Gulf area. So there's the risk factor. Transport is higher through the Gulf, but also naturally, progress is there through the Pacific coast as well. So those are the percentages where we have accumulated cases as of yesterday in the different states. The species affected, we still see bovine, which is the most common in every country in Central America with the most number of cases. And then we have canines with a very important role. And then other species such as swine and equine occupying the commercial side. Here you see that we have detected some wildlife animals or semi-domestic animals such as cats. We will soon look at some of these specificities in this case. The wounds and lesions are also accumulated in this case, reported in the navel and then all the types of traumas. These are the main causes that we have. That's why we always incentivize healing of wounds and treating wounds, obviously with the worm, but also without it, to ensure we break the cycle. In Mexico, since 2024, we published the emergency plan to face the presence of the New World screwworm. At that time, in 2024, it was in the south of Mexico. It's a national emergency plan that helps us concentrate resources and act. It provides financial, material, and human resources to face the disease. So even today, we are still considering this as part of the emergency plan. So it still is an animal health emergency. This expires every 6 months, but we have been reactivating the plan as long as we have not been able to control and eradicate the disease. The strategy in Mexico is based on reporting mainly. This was a very important aspect. We love working with information sharing, with bringing talks and brochures and just raising awareness about the worm in people because it had been such a long time that we had eradicated it. We had several generations of veterinarians that and even surgeons, biologists that had not seen it in the country. And actually in Mexico, we still have an important area which is free of the disease. In spite of all the spread of it. Obviously, we designed a mechanism to provide care and follow-up monitoring of all cases. That's under the commission I am representing. And we had a fast diagnosis method, telediagnosis, because in this disease, it's completely morphological, entomological. It's done with a microscope. We have staff with microscope, internet. They send us an image, and an entomologist or biologist is the one that does the diagnosis. It entails several aspects: trapping, taking samples of flies to see where wild flies and sterile flies are, to know where they're being distributed. And if there's good distribution in our monitoring, you can see some of the traps, the suppression traps on the screen, on the slide, and that kills the flies. Control of transport and mobilization is very important. It plays a critical role because, as we saw, the most affected species are bovine, and that means that the commercial roads have that critical role to play. So we must control mobilization very strictly. We also have a mechanism to spread sterile flies as part of other strategies, constant vigilance between the origin and destination, and sharing information now specifically on wildlife. Because it was such a large emergency, initially the most important thing was to look at commercial cattle, and especially bovine. But we have now been extending this, as you can see on the information on screen, trying to tackle wildlife as well in a more organized manner. Now, because it is not fully within the competence of the Secretariat of Agriculture, we had to coordinate with the Secretariat for the Environment, the National Commission for Protected Natural Areas, Semarnat, to work together. And this has given us great results. We now have these specific brochures for wildlife, not only for commercial cattle, but we still provide all the information that anytime they can treat wounds, that they do so to break the cycle of the fly. Here we have an example of a porcupine. This awareness raising information has helped to share, and so physicians have helped, or veterinarians, have helped us in the exercise of their profession. There's been great support because they have contacted us with other species, and also if they see any wildlife animals, they report it as well. This is a negative case. This was not the screwworm, but I'm just giving this as an example of how information sharing and awareness raising is definitely playing an important role. We do this with hunters. We do this with all the authorities in charge. We do it with communities living in protected natural areas. We try to reach out to everyone with all the information we can. In 2024, there was a large increase in cases of the screwworm in Mexico. So we found the worm again in our country, and that meant we needed a strategy. I have to acknowledge the support of the U.S. Department of Agriculture and APHIS, who helped us coordinate. We've been working together to just coordinate with all the different agencies and secretariats to define our work plan. As I showed before, and here it's highlighted again, we have to work on low-lying areas at sea level. Also, because of how cattle is moved, we've had cases even at 2,300 meters above sea level. But to work with wildlife, we have to define our most important factors, our key factors. It also has to do with areas with native vegetation in protected areas with warm, wet or humid climate most of the year. Considering all these conditions, to have the constant presence of the worm. Here we see some photographs of, well, right now I am in the state of Tamaulipas, and these were taken here recently. We've been monitoring natural protected areas, federal and state areas, with the conservation management units for wildlife and intensely cooperating to help raise awareness and place camera traps. Here we see some examples to help us monitor. We've acquired the necessary infrastructure to work in these areas. It's a very different strategy here. We're using several the types of equipment we need, sometimes off-road vehicles, because we need to cover large natural protected areas without roads or any vehicle accessible ways, so that helps us move around. This is the example of the state of Tamaulipas. This is a pilot program that will be expanded to other states in coordination with Semarnat and CONAN to ensure that we can see good results. The head of the sector will always be Semarnat. It's our institution. So the results that we obtain are then sent to the heads of sector and vice versa. All information is shared. So when they find a case, we take samples, provide a diagnosis, do the geolocation, and officially report the case. And that's why I was saying that the official report and the data I am sharing are evidence-based. These are not rumors or because I think that we have cases here. No, these are examples where we have verified it. And here we see how the camera traps are being placed. The location or the location of the different cameras only in Tamaulipas to coordinate with hunting and fishing and CONAN. In Tamaulipas, we have seen that there are state-run areas and federal areas. We've worked with both to ensure that we can have these official accesses to take samples officially in these areas. Here we see some of the images captured by the camera traps. We've had to look at 266,645 images of photos from the traps in protected natural areas. We have one in the highlands of Tamaulipas and Reserva del Cielo, which is a state conservation area. And also the management units have allowed us to work with them. We have had great collaboration, and because the states these states also live off of tourism and hunting, the preservation of these resources, of course, is fundamentally important to them as well. Here we see some images where we might suspect that some of these animals are affected. These are wounds on the skin. None of these animals has tested positive, but we have identified them to be sure we can track them. Just in case these wounds at some point might be harboring flies. We have reports from all the states. In this picture, we see all the cases reported from 2024 to date, identifying the national level work. I've added the images from Tamaulipas because it's where we have the pilot program, but it's really not a pilot. We are going to expand it to Chihuahua and other states. Again, you see it's national coverage. We've had all these reports. Thankfully, most have been negative. And again, evidence of positive cases, only 10. And these are the animals that have been identified or diagnosed, where we have proof that it was actually the New World screwworm. As you see, I think all of them, yes, all of them are in the south of the country. So thankfully, in the north, we have no cases. The latest cases you can see white-tailed deer, which is a native species because we had red deer, but that's an exotic species. We now have the white-tailed deer in Veracruz. This report is, again, constantly being provided. Reports are weekly, sending out information so everyone is aware of the cases we are seeing and where they are located. The municipalities that are affected specifically. This is just some more pictures of the work we're doing over here, again, jointly, reaching out and looking at the traps, just going along with all our strategy. And we're also adding more traps. So Senacica, besides everything else we're doing, is also trying to identify the flies themselves, because in this territory they are now releasing sterile flies. So we're also using monitoring traps for that to see how the spread is. The spread of the sterile flies is going. Here we see some of the examples of these traps and the camera traps. And that's where we took this picture. And here you see how you collect the micro SD cards to look at them in the computer, and that's how we get the pictures that I've shown here. The last registered case was a tapir in the reserve of Calakmul, to the south in Quintana Roo state. This is a video. I have to give credit to CONAM. They shared it. And here you see how the animal is affected. You see how it is not naturally walking. It's on a path, not hiding as normal. And just for you to be aware of the types of wounds that we can find quickly on its body. The animal approached, not naturally approached the area workers, and we were able to take these, or they were able to take these images. As the video progresses, you will be able to see something I've already mentioned on the natural behavior of species, of wild species, which is the fighting amongst themselves, which is a great way for wounds to be created, and so the fly to lay its eggs. I just want to see if I can show you the wounds. I'm forwarding the video here, fast forwarding. It's all in the posterior chain of the animal. Also, credit to CONAM. I want to share this video they provided, where you can see how there's they're fighting. The males are fighting each other, which leads to their wounds. And of course, these wounds are a key factor for the disease to spread. To close, we are working in coordination with the authorities in the wildlife sector. At Senacica, we always do our best. Of course, the most important part is reporting cases. And for wildlife specifically, it is even more important to know exactly where the case is located. If we don't have the information on the location, then we are not necessarily freeing or releasing the sterile flies in the best places. So again, here it is to encourage everyone to please help us. Do report all cases. It's not a matter of just maybe I'll let everyone know, because if not, we are not aware of its existence, and we think that there's no flies in that area. There are many ways to report cases. There's an 800 number. There's a WhatsApp number. There's also an app where you can record. There's a QR code there if you want to download the app. And we also post all this information periodically. We publish it. Of course, it's understandable that the 800 line can be saturated. The number of cases, as you've seen, is very high per day. This is a national hotline, but that's why we have all the other tools as well through WhatsApp, sending us pictures. That all really helps. And again, with the exact location, because if you tell me there's a case in Tabasco in the state, that's not much help for me because it's very partial information and it won't allow me to take specific action. So that's why I'm insisting we're working hard on this, but we do need all the platforms necessary at your availability for you to help us report. Don't just try one. If you call and there's no answer, please keep trying with the others. We have all other options that are just as important for us. And that's it on my part. Thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor.
Thank you very much, doctor.
¿Usted se tiene que retirar o va a
I think,
continuar?
will you be able to stay with us or do you have to leave? Well, if there's questions, I'd love to answer them. Sure, let's go ahead and do that right away because I know you are very busy. We appreciate your time. Dr. Tonatu Selva has a comment. In the Senatsica webpage, you're saying that the most active cases are found in the state of Oaxaca, second place Veracruz, as of April 14th. Oaxaca 194, Veracruz 173. Was there anything that changed in terms of reports in these 2 days? No, what's happening is that I was not talking about active cases, I was talking about accumulated cases. But I love that comment because he is referring to a dashboard that is being updated every day. So people who say that there's no information, it's just that they're not looking in the right places. You can find it in Senasica's webpage. It is updated per day. So just to clarify and to be transparent, I was talking about accumulated cases. He's talking about active cases. Thank you so much, doctor. I have another one, but I think it's more for Dr. Marie. Let me see. Rafael Mariano is asking, in case of myiasis, where or with whom can we send pictures or videos of the affected animal? Well, it's definitely with the CPA. It's very important to take samples. Diagnosis is not done in person. The CPA staff does not do it personally. It's always a biologist or an entomologist. We do it with a telediagnosis, but we do need the larvae physically because once you have them, let's say 30 minutes, 2 hours after a diagnosis, these samples are kept safely, all of these. So we do need a physical sample. Taking pictures is not the only, or just taking pictures is not the right thing. We need the morphological structures of the worm to allow us to identify it. It's not only a general photograph. It's very specific. We use the microscope, the stereoscopic microscope, to look at the structures that help us do the diagnosis to be sure that it is present, to ensure that all the samples are ready. Ideally, you would be able to take samples of 10 larvae. 10 is the ideal sample for a good diagnosis. Preserving them in alcohol at 70%. We give out several kits for sample taking and for sending us the samples. If you don't have it with 70% alcohol, they can be preserved very well if you don't have the kit. Delivering them is free of charge. CPA will pick them up and we do the telediagnosis and we also review all the samples to safekeep. We do not have to destroy them all when providing treatment, not all of them should be destroyed, because if not, we won't have any samples. So first take samples, and then of course, please go ahead and destroy all the larvae. And remember that for the cycle to end, it has to be buried. Be careful to ensure they do not fall on the ground, that they don't bore into the ground themselves, that they are destroyed in the most effective method. The easiest or cheapest is to just stomp them, but please kill them all.
Okay, we have more questions. Dr. Rafael Mariano says, I have evidence of a positive case of a dog. It was a wound in the eye, and I had to work hard, and I have been monitoring him. Thank you, doctor. And then an anonymous participant. Okay, first, Didier Casanova, how available are, how willing are our institutions in Mexico in order to have access to the samples and to work in projects, research projects? I remind you that we have free areas here. So if you want to work on a free area, we're not going to favor to bring larvae. The provision is there. There is a call for to research, to do research on some new strategies. But sometimes details as this ones are not considered. For example, just an example, in the free zone in the north, I would like to work with live larvae, but this is not pertinent. Thank you, doctor. Anyway, you will need to send the request to Senaseca, to General Director of Animal Health, and they will give you the corresponding answer, considering everything Dr. Armando has mentioned already. Leonel Marinos asked if the larvae are water resistant. I'm asking this because the infestation of aquatic environments, mammals, are affected because of this. We have seen the report in literature, meaning that yes, it affects the mammals, although if they live in water. We're not talking about fish, but we're talking about others. They may have this situation. An anonymous participant said, thank you for this excellent presentation, Dr. Armando. With regard to the analysis and review of captures from pictures, how long do the technical people take revising the files that are stored by trap camera? So how long will it take to assess the presence of potential wounds in seeing them in pictures? Do you use any algorithm or machine learning to automate this review of files? And my last question is related to the action mechanisms. Once a picture or video suggests a possible meiosis because of the screwworm, for example, if we detect on a an animal, what actions would you implement? Good question. Because giving a social presentation is not in agreement with the amount of work developed. Yes, image taking takes a lot of time, so we need to disregard a series of images that do not have value for this disease. And once we detect a suspect animal, remember that trapping people are working there. So after that, we track the area where the animal was captured by this trapping cameras. But right now, we do not have any algorithm. It is difficult for wildlife because most of the images we have about the screwworm are taken with a microscope. So not even AI can make an interpretation of a wound on an animal of wildlife because it is suggestive. Well, till we do not have the larva, we cannot say that this is it. But what we can identify are the wounds that may be infected. So we have images of bats that are biting animals, and we see the wound systematically. Those are the areas prone where we check more from cameras as well as from the trapping, because we like to see if there is something fertile in the play. There are many more questions. I'm going to ask just a few of them because of time reasons. So we're going to send all these questions to Dr. later. So if you have included your email addresses, I'm sure that Dr. will answer your questions when he will have time. Somebody is asking, David Solano is asking, why do you use economic traps? He says economic traps in parentheses. They need live tissue, and in these traps, tissue attracts a good number of flies because the tissue decompose very early. So what we have about these economic traps is the fermentation of the liver. It is not raw as is in a trap. So there is a controlled fermentation, and with this we attract the fly, we trap it, but this is a suppression trap. Nature of getting or have the wings what does not allow the identification. This is only being used where there's no release of sterile flies. Thank you, doctor. There are other questions. How many cases are sent? In the areas, in the area of Jalisco. Cruz from Jalisco said they have 3 positive cases. And he asked, because I believe that may be a recurrent question. Well, the technological aspect is very important. The availability of flies is not open, so we cannot buy flies, or so we need to generate them. So Zika did the process for Panama session came to Mexico, and it is in Mexico. It is not that if I have 5, 6, or 1,000 cases, we're not going to release flies anymore because we do not have enough flies. The other thing of Zika is what is being done in the plant that is going to be inaugurated by mid-term. We need more sterile flies to cover the national territory surface. This sounds easy, but it implies a heavy investment, and it is hard to have the capacity of production of enough flies to cover the national territory. So the strategy in the case of such scarce resources to apply it where we need to prevent the progress, not to apply it on a general matter because it will affect state by state, and that dilutes the efforts made. Thank you. We have a question from Stephanie Romero. Congratulations to Stephanie for your question. How can we get involved those internship doctors or in these activities if we are interested in the area? Good question, as you said. Well, the truth is that all of us have something to do, and it is very important for internships. I would like to say this as an area of opportunity where these young people that are entering the labor life or concluding their career get involved in this. That will occur with time. So, but to have this beautiful opportunity to work And this is maybe probably a unique opportunity. So we have the social services that we are really missing. Your universities can get organized. We are open to work with the universities, not only in research aspect, but at the field level as well. So it is about getting organized to to develop a serious statement to the animal health directorate. And the other is that we are recruiting staff in CPA. You can have access. You can access the information to see if this information is of your interest to join the teams in a different manner, which is to work with us in CPA.
De acuerdo, doctor.
Okay, doctor.
Dice Gilberto Pozo.
Gilberto Pozo says that in relation to the dissemination material, if it is a possibility to get the stock to distribute them in the places they work. Where does he work?
No lo dice, pero también tiene otro
He does not say, but he has another comment. He remembers that in 2023 were indicated the risk of progress of this screwworm, and the question here is if the reports in wildlife are taking place in the southeast, why we are systematically checking the north and not the southeast. We believe that systematic monitoring should be conducted in populations of ground mammals, monkeys in border places in Chiapas, Tabasco, and Campeche. It is not really accurate what he is saying. I submitted a map of the Republic where all the notifications we have are included. And I explained that the program is a national program. What we are having is a pilot plan in Tamaulipas. It is not that we are abandoning the South. The case I'm submitting related to hematitis from Calahoo. So we have the program at the national level, but how to integrate in the different dependencies of the government. This is the pilot plan we're going to disseminate soon. So we're going to cover it. I just want to make a comment, meaning that this is work represents a lot of effort. The Secretary of Agriculture, Senacica, are integrated to cover an area. Although, regardless of the fact that we have some 20,000 cases of the worm to work on a joint area with other areas, but we need the participation. The state municipalities have a lot to do for wildlife, and not only to wait for these coordinations we are conducting at the governmental level. So I would like to emphasize that it is positive, it is national, we're working all over the country, but to have a pilot program in Tamaulipas is because we have the conditions, the financial and material conditions to do so, with the idea to disseminate it all over the country as soon as possible. Thank you. We're going to stop here with the questions, because otherwise we will take more time from Dr. Gomez Mendieta. Your questions will be sent to Dr. Armando. Somebody is asking about your email address. Can we give them the management email? Thank you. I will do that. Okay. We thank Dr. Armando Garcia Lopez, Director of CPA, and we thank you for your participation. So we're going to continue counting on you. Tomorrow we're going to have the PEGS webinar. So I really thank you for that. We're going to send your questions to the doctor for you to get answers to your questions. And there are also people experiencing fauna that would like to cooperate. I really like that. Thank you, doctor. See you later.
Bien.
Okay, now we're gonna listen the presentation of Dr. Luis Antonio Gomez Mendieta. So please turn on your video. He will talk about the management of diseases and pests in wildlife. Doctor, you have time from now till 11 because of the time we took from your presentation. And we're gonna reduce a little bit the participatory situation. Can you put your presentation in presentation mode? Thank you. Dr. Gomez Mendieta is currently the representative in the National Service of Senacica and the state of Mexico. He has a lot of experience. He has worked in the Secretariat of the Environment and Natural Resources as well, and as well as in the General Directorate of Animal Health of Senacica, as well as in the area of zoo sanitary campaigns. Go ahead, doctor. If you want to add anything else about your professional experience, you can do it. The presentation is not in presentation mode yet.
Abajo. Exactamente. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Adelante, doctor.
Go ahead. We are seeing two things, two copies of the slides.
Y no sé si ya está hablando, doctor, porque no lo escucho.
Oh, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Doctor Gómez, no lo escucho.
Dr. Gomez, we are not hearing you.
No está bloqueado su micrófono, entonces deben ser sus audífonos.
Probably it's your headset. Because your microphone is not blocked. Can you hear me now? Yes. Now we can.
No, ya no vemos a usted. Ahora nada más.
We are not seeing your presentation. Mariana, could you help us with the presentation? And Doctor will tell us when we have to change it, when we need to change the slide.
No, doctor, no se ve solo.
No, we are seeing only you. We are not seeing your presentation. Don't worry. It is important that people see you. But we are not seeing your presentation. Let us see if Mrs. Mariana has the presentation available. Or somebody will help you. Okay, now we are seeing this, but not in presentation mode. Now, what about now? Can you see it? Yes, but we see the two slides. We see two slides at a time.
No sé cómo quitarla.
I don't know how to remove this one, the second one. And now, what about now? No.
Si quiere, déjela como la puso al
principio. Leave it as you did at the beginning. Because now we're not seeing anything at all.
Ya aunque no se vea en modo presentación.
Leave it if it is not in presentation mode. Now we're not seeing the presentation.
Ahí?
No, no se ve.
Not yet. I'll let you know when we can see it.
Ahí está ya bien, perfecto.
Now we can see it. Perfect. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Dr. Gomez. I want to thank AICA and the institutions for the opportunity to talk to you. We had great speakers, and they mentioned part of what I'm going to say in my presentation. So it will be convenient to make some comments.
Bien, pues un poco de contexto, platicar.
Some context. Mexico is the 10th meat producer. That is why this is important.
Es importante resaltar que que México también tiene otra parte de la
asked
producción
him
representada por las aves, los porcinos, los ovinos y caprinos y las abejas que nos permiten tener cierta capacidad para
it is
poder
important to highlight
alimentarnos
that
y alimentar a
Mexico
nuestro pueblo. Es
has
importante porque
another
esta
part of the
parte
animal production
alimenta
represented by birds and bees. So we have some capacity to
tener una seguridad.
enable food
Algo
safety.
importante también
So the opportunity to have food safety. Something important to highlight is that Mexico is considered a mega diverse country. Talking about the fauna wealth, we have records of Mexico, meaning that Mexico is the second place in reptile species and five in vascular plants. In the case for the animals and birds, we are in third place. Next. So here to highlight that wild fauna provides a part of food safety, is particularly talking about the right of animals to use natural resources and wildlife, supporting food safety, where it says, where we have records meaning that a year, 200,000 deers are hunted and they produce 12,000 tons of meat a year. According to the sources we consulted, that represents four times more. So here we have the consumption of animal origin per capita that we have to highlight the bovines as the consumption of animal protein, the smallest animal protein consumption we have in Mexico. We are here would like to highlight the importance of wildlife and the importance is because of species, but it is also important to consider the environmental services provided. In that regard, thanks to that, we have a large food production and other pollinators that are important for 75% of the crops. Something else that is also important is that they provide 75% of safe of water that we have. And also, wetlands help us to purify water. They use the conversion of CO2 is done through photosynthesis, as well as the food provision. The roles of weather regulation they have is important. Something else as well as that important is that they are part the spiritual and religious aspects of originary people. This is important for them. They use it not only for food, but also to use as part of medication that they use in their daily life. From the point of view of health, it is important to highlight that they also provide environmental services, controlling diseases, because there is this dilution effect, preserving the protected natural areas and the environmental surroundings. It is also important because through it we can have active principles for medication, vaccines, and natural mechanisms of final disposal of bodies through this species, with some species that can use this mean as food to highlight the role of bats which are an important part. They are an important part of the pollinators.
Bien. Hablando ya en el tema, todos hablamos
Now,
de salud.
talking about the topic, all of us talked about One Health. So what matters here is, in my view,
Pues se tiene o se reconoce con
that
esto,
with this, we recognize through this strategy that everything is connected, animal populations, wild, domestic ones, we as part of these populations, as well as the surroundings where we develop. From the sanitary risk point of view, the most important thing is the interface where all these populations get together. Important to consider to monitor some actions in order to minimize the effects of this. So through this interface, the species increase. Also to highlight the definition that the researchers have now, and we said that the dynamic network of epidemiologic connections as well as the ecologic ones between the wildlife, livestock, and the physical space where they interact. Important to consider natural landscape and the human intervention and the vulnerability because of the human intervention. With this, we want to highlight the importance of contact probability. So this relates to some research where subject matter said that the species are important for the appearance of diseases, but it is also worthy to highlight that this can also be used to have capacities at a given moment in time to have an early warning in relation to other parts of subsystems of human health and animal health in order to have quick responses and to have effects at a given time for control and to eradicate the situation of the disease. In the case of diseases, for WOHA, the members of this international organization, they highlight that the causal agents of diseases are parasites, fungi, and that are part of the selection. This is something no one can control, but it is also important that we know what happens at a given time and knowing that we can intervene at a given time to minimize the risk. Something important to highlight because of this, researchers reported by WOHA is the diseases in humans come from animals. 65% of these, 75% of these diseases are also originated in animals as well. So, and the species that evolved first were other species. Something important that is highlighted because the altered environments increases, the degraded ecosystems or altered ecosystems increase the risk of these leaves of SPP. So we're talking about 140 million that are on a condition of hungry. Important to highlight from the WOHA databases, they consider 50 important diseases for preservation. And out of these 50, 124 wildlife animals, wild animals, I'm sorry. So they consider that the PPA and aviar influenza are high impact diseases. Now talking about this issue, as Colonel Garcia and Dr. Mari Palma mentioned before about what has been done, let me talk a little bit about history. In the case of wildlife health, since 2001, we established the first Office of Wildlife in Mexico with the view of One Health, and this because of the concerns that exist of the situations related to avian influenza at that time. So we used this strategy to implement it, and in the Secretary of the Environment and the Directorate, General Directorate of Wildlife, of the Subsecretary of Environmental Protection at that time, and we had some achievements. So in 2003, the Secretary of Health and SAGAP at that time work together for the surveillance and control of emerging diseases. Something important to highlight here is that in 2005 and 6 in Mexico, we monitored the avian influenza in priority wetlands with interventions from Semarnat, USDA, and some NGOs such as Wildlife Trust and the universities. So Chihuahua University, UNAM, so we were able to isolate for the first time a virus of low toxicity for an outbreak that we had in Mexico in 2015, and that was the basis to establish a vaccine. And with that, we were able to control the avian influenza. Also, we were able to have a hemispheric plan with USDA to manage rage, and we established the basis to have a mechanism of combination based on a glossary. So also, there's a management office was created before the UUCN established the Manhattan Principles, or they indicate, they talk about the management of animal diseases according to One Health. And also, FAO, the same year in 2004, established the Center of Emergency of Cross-Border Diseases. In 2010, WOHA, at the time, WOHA FAO established things to analyze the risk of the diseases because of the avian disease we had. So the plan was a 6-year plan until 2022. The strategy is implemented and into the World Environment Program of United Nations to reaffirm the importance of environmental health in managing these diseases.
Okay, so now talking about the screwworm itself and knowing that there are cases in wildlife, but because we are a mega diverse country, what are the species we should be looking out for? And I would say all of them, including birds and mammals that occur in all areas where we have control over them. Here we see an example, again, of the wealth of species at state level, looking at mammals and birds. And importantly here, when the strategy was created, it also included a plan to align the activities to manage and protect wildlife, which are important for management overall. And it was found that we needed to monitor populations. So it's crucial to know about the demographics of the species, especially those used for the extraction and even non-extraction, but also for all the wildlife centers or rescue facilities, and also through any translocation or transport activities when you're sending live species or live animals through interstate transport or local mobilization, and also the parts and derivatives or byproducts, which are also important considering the risks and the health side. Also importantly, the processes to help control species that are in conflict with human activities. It would be convenient to monitor diseases in them as well as the different processes where our law enforcement and environmental authorities seize any animals. Now, bringing this to the processes under Semarnat, being the environmental authority, we have the use of conservation instruments for surveillance. There's a system for conservation management areas, which is under Semarnat. We can see the distribution of some of the species where they are found throughout the country. Also, where there is wildlife management in their natural habitat within natural protected areas, as we've heard, through the different rehabilitation and rescue centers, and also in case of any seizure of animals by law enforcement authorities. Now, talking about this locally in Mexico, in the databases we have, to the right, you have the Senacica system looking at epidemiological data. We have 137 diseases under our responsibility. Some are mandatory reporting diseases, which are exotic. Some of these, for example, I would highlight one only as considered important for exotic diseases, which is a chronic Western disease. Also importantly, in groups 2 and 3, which are endemic diseases, we have no records of exclusive diseases in wildlife, but we should also highlight, as we heard by Mr. Garcia, there's also surveillance on any diseases that could happen, such as the screwworm, African swine fever, high pathogenic influenza, and other diseases we have already eradicated. And for active campaigns, we also consider deer and American bison, as well as water buffalo, because they are reservoirs for the control and eradication of TB. So how are we going to do it? As we heard from the colonel, we do it through the protected management areas. And here we see also when anyone is using birds, for example, for their own use or livelihood, it's a good idea to work with them to increase surveillance of these species, especially the ornate birds that are, and singing birds, where we have the opportunity of getting reports, and that will help us treat any myiasis. Also, bird watchers are an important group because they have bird watching throughout the year. So it's good to work with them so that they can help us. If they see anything, they let us know what is going on in the areas where they are also
Doctora
active.
Rose, ya que terminamos, si
Doctor,
nos-
we should be closing if you could help us with that. Thank you. Sure, just quickly, 2 slides. Also, this on birds. But the importance is controlling exotic species, but also monitoring diseases and taking samples throughout the year. For deer, the same. We have to work with anyone that is using the animals or hunting. And throughout the year, deer, such as in the United States, for example, have certain seasons where they're changing their ornaments, and they might have wounds at the time when they're also fighting each other. What WOA says regarding the tripartite strategy, we need to have indicators for political governance, legislation, and resources for the activities. And this, for me, is the most important, as we've already heard in the prior presentation, that there's a team to capture any, in case they have cases or suspect wounds, the suspected wounds that might be compatible with the screwworm. In this intervention capacity matrix, most of the processes in the management units and the different protected areas, there's very high capacities to detect them with camera traps, as we heard, or other types of monitoring. And also for some processes, there's a possibility of having therapeutic interventions, especially when we're talking about rehabilitation of species and mobilization. These are all important in terms of risks for the spread of the disease. Also with the records and registries of pets and raptors, it would also be important to know what species are active because they could help us out. And the last one quickly, this is a case in Uruguay where in feral swine, they had positive results in several of the species caught, and this raises an alert in the species that we have and those that are even exotic, not just for this disease, but others. I've also mentioned African swine fever, TB, because we know that these animals are all reservoirs for that. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Gómez Mendieta. Vamos a dejar las
Thank you, Dr.
preguntas
Gomez
para el final, por
Mendieta.
favor.
We'll leave questions for the very end. If
del
you
evento,
could
podemos
join us until the end,
ahí.
we can leave that
Gracias.
time at the end.
Bien,
Thank you.
perfecto. Vamos a dar paso
Wonderful. So now we will have, and we welcome Dr. Randall Arguedas and biologist Carol Sanchez Nunez from Costa Rica. Sasha Treyes, if you are here, help us out in sharing the presentation, please.
Sacha, no te vemos ni te escuchamos.
I don't see you, Sasha. Are you there?
Bien, me parece que no está disponible. Bueno,
It seems Sasha's not available. So let's begin with Carol. Oh, sorry, I am here. I'm here. I had an issue with the computer, but I'm here. Thank you, Sasha. Go ahead. Thank you and good morning. Thank you for asking us to join the event. In Costa Rica, we have our 2 authorities here that representing us. Those related with these matters are National Protected Area System under the Ministry of the Environment, who is in charge of wildlife. And we also have the National Animal Health Service under the Ministry of Agriculture, which covers animal health. And they're leading all the actions on the New World Screwworm. So today we are joined by Carol Sanchez, a biologist of our National Protected Area System, and Dr. Randa Largueras, a veterinarian of SENASA. They have a joint presentation, and they will tell us how the situation is in Costa Rica, as well as the actions that these organizations are undertaking. Carol, go ahead.
Muchas gracias, Sacha. Y gracias
Thank you, Sasha. Thanks, everyone.
Por acceder. Adelante.
Go ahead.
Carol, tienes tu micrófono.
Carol, just in case your mic is off, we don't hear you. We were seeing the presentation correctly, we just didn't hear you.
Si lo gustas activar, por favor. Ya no se ve tu presentación, se ve tu
Okay, now we hear you. Just be sure to put it in full screen. Thank you.
Ya, ahora sí.
Okay, go ahead. Ready. Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for inviting us to present in this event. As Sasha has said, we will be giving a joint presentation. Dr. Randall and myself will share some of the information and the management we've done on cases of the screwworm in Costa Rica. Just as a brief overview, we highlight the complexity in terms of controlling and preventing the disease in wildlife. As we heard from prior presentations, the behavior and the lifestyle of these species make it difficult to control. So treatment, prevention is not always timely. I'm highlighting some of the animals that are present in our management areas. We know that there's many impacts of the disease on the tissues with wounds, and animals are unable to return to their natural habitat, as well as impact on wildlife populations because there's neonatal mortality and population decrease. And this group, again, is a natural reservoir for the disease. And because they live freely, it means they are able to take the disease elsewhere as well. Just to look at the context of the disease and the screwworm in Costa Rica, just some points. In Costa Rica, the myiasis due to screwworm is included in the list of mandatory reporting diseases, so the presence of the disease always has to be reported. In 2024, the disease was prioritized as one of the main zoonotic diseases to look out for, and we worked on a commission under the One Health approach, bringing together the different agencies to work jointly in addressing the disease. This is a timeline of events regarding the disease in Costa Rica. In 2020, we had been declared free of the screwworm. In July 2023, we had the first case reported in the south of the country in a dog. And starting then, we undertook several actions, government actions to address and manage the disease. In 2024, we had the first case in humans, February 2024, and as of today, epidemiological week 13, 2026, we had 102 cases in humans, and in SENASA, 31,990 cases in animals. Starting in 2024, we strengthened our interinstitutional alliances, bringing together the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment, that I represent, and the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Farming, joint work. So from our part, we began working on a series of surveillance actions. We had not done that before. In the role of the Ministry of Environment, the importance of monitoring and providing care to wildlife was not so present. It was only until 2024 when our ministry understood its role as part of these strategies under the One Health approach. And so we began finding coordination and alliances with different agencies that had already been working on the matter. That led us to raise awareness with the different wildlife rescue centers, because these are the veterinary clinics that receive animals for their first care. So they were the ones detecting animals with wounds by screwworm. I give the floor now to Randall. Before that, just one important point. The process of interinstitutional work has helped us create strong alliances. The information we are working on for our analysis and management is created together. So the role of our colleagues at SENASA is crucial, because they're the ones analyzing the samples, they're the ones diagnosing in case of myiasis. And now I give the floor to Randall to share the data and reports to date. Thank you, Carol. First, I would just like to highlight, as we've heard in other presentations by Mexico, similar to them in Costa Rica, bovine and canine species are also the ones with the most cases. And also, importantly, all these are positive until our lab says that it is indeed a Coccolomia hominivorax larva. The rescue centers, again, are very valuable partners, because all the cases sent to the lab come from these rescue centers. From the information we have to date, starting in 2024 to 2026, we can see the two most affected species are the two-toed sloth, which you see on the first picture, and the howler monkey, alouata. These animals tend to move more slowly. They stay passively in a place, and so it's easier to observe them. Tapirs as well have also represented a considerable number of cases, but as we see, there are other species of primates and other sloths, squirrels, ocelots, porcupines, possums, coatis, and there's one report of a bird positive with it. For some, we don't have the information on the species in our system. So it's undetermined, but overall, the total cases reported are 55. Over the years, this is the same information. Now it's disaggregated per year, 2026, 25, 24. So it's very important to understand that surveillance and just vigilance of the species is obviously passive only, but the efforts by all the members of SINAC, our protected area system, and ourselves at SENASA, as well as the communities, plus the transfer of these individuals to the rescue centers, allow us to get the data we're showing. So that's always our line of work as well. Here we see the distribution. Cases are found all over the country. Our country is very small, and very quickly, just months after the screwworm was first found in the south of Costa Rica, in the border with Panama, it spread throughout all the provinces. You see them here on screen with the distribution of cases by province. As has been mentioned, the provinces with more forests, more humidity, low-lying areas have the most number of cases, which is the normal behavior or morphology of the fly.
Y bueno, ahí está un poco la distribución entre.
Here we see the distribution of some of the cases. Many could be released back into the wild. Some are still in recovery. Some had to be euthanized, and some died. Some of these wounds are really severe, quite advanced in these animals, and that is probably the reason why they come to the rescue centers. It's animals that will be found because they are so weakened already. Their wounds are so serious, so it's easier for us to find them or for them to be taken to a rescue center, being wildlife. And if we look at the body area affected by the screwworm, most, as we see, are extremities. It's relatively common because of their fighting or there's trauma after being run over or electrocution. These are probably the three most common areas for injuries, especially for primates and howler monkeys, sloths. We see them very much electrocuted coming to those rescue centers after electrocution because they have contact with electricity posts, the face and back also. Different from bovine, where the main cause, as we heard by prior Mexican colleagues, is the navel. For wildlife area, it's more other types of wounds, injuries, lesions, because they are fighting each other or because there was a human culprit, such as being run over by a car. The mortality rate is relatively high. It tends to spread all over the body, and treatment, although the treatment itself of the larvae may be effective, the wounds themselves may be so advanced and then subsequent infections are so frequent or extensive, and the trauma, the whole situation of the animal, many times the death comes naturally with the disease, looking at the infections and other complications after that. And I think it's now over to Carol again. Thank you. We've seen some of the information on cases to be recorded since 2024 to date. Myiasis due to screwworm. So we will now describe the actions we have been undertaking. As we know, in wildlife, we have more passive surveillance, and the actions are more challenging, but there's a lot to do in any case to try and contribute to contain the disease.
Voy a primero ceder la palabra al compañero para que él explique un poco cómo es la dinámica interinstitucional.
I will start explaining how we work. So the first report to SENASA is just by reporting the case. For the Ministry of Health, that covers the human side, when they detect a suspected case in a hospital, they immediately call us, and we are the ones who collect the sample. It's not them. And then it is transported to our official labs, where the larva can be observed and we can confirm a positive case. For CNAC, the protected area system is similar. It would be in a rescue center. They can transport the sample, and one of the staff members of SENASA will take the sample of the larvae that have been collected. As our colleagues from Mexico said, they are instructed to take at least 10 or more larvae to be able to correctly diagnose it, hopefully in different stages of development, L1 to L3, and they're put in alcohol and transported to the lab. And the lab confirms the case upon confirmation. This is relatively quick most of the time, 1 to 3 days at most. The case is confirmed, and if it is positive, we provide treatment and follow-up. Positive cases, testing positive in the lab, lead to our confirmed case. So we're not confirming cases any other way, not just looking at the larvae or just looking at the wounds or because we might think it is. Confirmed case equals positive at the lab after lab results. I think that's the same for all countries, but just to clarify that. And obviously, with domestic animals, a similar strategy. OIRSA in this case has a large network of collaborators who are part of passive surveillance. Additionally, we provide lectures, talks all over the country. Since the problem began, since the screwworm was detected, we give talks to producers, to people in communities and rescue centers, veterinarians, nurses, physicians, also in human health, providing training so that they can learn to recognize this and again not forget to report any myiasis. They're always encouraged to report any type of myiasis, even if it will be confirmed until it's at the lab.
So at the level of wildlife surveillance, as we said, this is a passive surveillance. So from the report, we have had the majority are transferred to rescue centers, but there have been some cases where the treatment is provided, particularly with tapirs, but they are just few cases. Almost all have been transferred to rescue centers with the veterinarian, and this is where we get our databases. For now, for the time being, we do not have any program for active surveillance. It is quite complicated, very expensive, and we do not have the infrastructure for an active surveillance. But the passive surveillance can be made. And to have data updated, literally, by epidemiologic week. I don't know, Carly, if you have anything else to add? Yes. Yes. To emphasize this reality that we work in attention of myiasis because of the screwworm with passive surveillance. With this, we promote the commitment of people that have some interaction with wildlife. So this has made us to generate a series of processes for training process and ordinance processes to an important number of stakeholders, including public officers. We had to work, as Randall said, in raising awareness, and they colleagues that are in the protected wildlife areas for them to take care of the situation. We have also approached groups of the tourism sector, where tourism guides come to us and want to have information, and they inform about cases because they are at the field level. They can detect detect the presence of wounded animals. So many stakeholders that are related. That helps us a lot to detect early indications or suspect cases to provide the corresponding attention. Some of the things we have defined is in identifying the roles of the different stakeholders. In the case of rescue centers, as Randall mentioned, this is one of the most important ones for us, and they are our main allies. Whenever there is an animal, a wild animal, with a wound, and they get to the rescue center to receive veterinarian services. So we have worked on a jointly manner with the different rescue centers of the country for prevention matters. Among the things highlighted with them is the importance to prevent and control the disease with a good management, because it is not just taking care of the animal, but also to prevent wounds. And even in the collections of live fauna they manage. In the case of zoos, in the case of breeder places, breeding places, and we work with them, explaining the importance to prevent possible wounds that may generate amiasis. The importance of a timely detection. They have to be observers. They need to pay attention of the conditions of the animals. This is a regulation in the country, but we highlight the importance of notify the cases on a timely manner, appropriate identification with the labs designed for this, and the appropriate disposal of bodies, and all the measures that they have to implement, cleanliness, disinfection, and attention, as well as the attention of the sick animals. So we emphasize a lot with the rescue centers. We emphasize a lot, and we conduct inspections to determine that the place has all the conditions to prevent risk. So the structure of the cages, that the animals are, that the cages are well designed, that they are safe, they won't cause any wound, to prevent the contact of animals that may be aggressive between themselves. I'm referring to animals that are out of their natural environment. This is part of what we manage. We have also worked in training processes. In the case of SENAC, it is important to say this because, as Randall said, SENAC is the entity that provides attention of wildlife in the country. When there is a situation of a wounded animal on a community, the one with the power to take care of this is us, the SENAC officers. SENAC works on a regionalized manner, and we needed to conduct training for the colleagues about the appropriate and timely attention. In these training sessions, we have worked with SENASA colleagues, the colleagues from the Animal Health Ministry, for the appropriate approach. We have provided the material to them to treat the sick animals, because whenever they get there to answer a call with an animal, the animal is already dead. So they need to be clear about how to expose the body to avoid the dissemination of the disease. So we have provided a whole training process in the different regions of the country because of that. How to make the good use of facilities for contention of animals and vehicles, and with the appropriate disinfection after transporting an animal with amiasis, how they can work in raising awareness and the local stakeholders to participate in the surveillance process and to actively cooperate in this systems we are implementing and developing. Another important group we are working on in this awareness process for prevention and attention of myiasis because of the screwworm is related to researchers. As mentioned by our colleague that presented before, we believe that this is a population that can help us to detect what is happening with wildlife fauna, because we do not go to the field to look for the cases. We depend on the cases reported by scientific researchers that are in the environment, natural environment on a daily basis. They are a good source of information. With them, we have work in raising awareness of the appropriate management. This is something that should be done systematically if we manipulate wildlife. We highlight the importance to prevent wounds. Practices like the use of telemetry and things that can methodologies that favor wounds. We work a lot with researchers to find the most appropriate alternatives to prevent wounds and to avoid the cases of myiasis. And to explain how they can report this to the authorities. They are the field level, so they are the first ones to see this. So we have explained how important it is for them to participate and provide information about the situations in the natural ecosystems. Also to coordinate with the authorities if they have detected an animal that needs to be transferred for a veterinarian service, and also the appropriate use of the equipment used if within their research process they detect an animal that has had the disease. Carol, we need to listen the next speaker because we only have 20 minutes. I'm sorry. We are coordinated to conclude at 12 because we miss our interpreters and the signal will be cut as well. Just in closing, identification of the issues or challenges that we have to continue with this attention process. Limitation in surveillance. We have a passive surveillance, so there is a limitation in this situation. Difficulty to estimate the real number of cases of wildlife because they are free life animals. They died in the nature and we do not realize that. Also, the institutional management limitations. To continue the process of coordination and communication that we need to develop among institutions that are related. Thank you. Thank you, biologist Carol Sanchez and Dr. Randall Arguedas. The presentation is recorded, so here we have the information of my email in case you have questions. I see that Dr. Maria and Claudio have answered some of the questions. If you want to include other questions, our guest could complete them in the section of questions and answers while we conclude our webinar. My apologies because it is scheduled to 12, but this is because we lose the internet connection and the interpretation service as well. So thank you. Now let's continue with Dr. Victor Manuel Campos. And I offer an apology because his presentation was scheduled before, but we took longer, and that's why we consume more time. But go ahead, Dr. Campuzano. Thank you very much. Thank you, doctor. Don't worry. That happens from time to time. The idea is that we can talk about what we do through the Secretary of the Environment for the attention of this problem. It is not a presentation mode. If somebody already talked about some of the topics you will include, to skip the slides at this regard. Now we're not going to allow me to give my whole presentation. I'm kidding. No problem. Can you see my presentation? Okay, talking. about the Environment Secretariat and Natural Resources. Thus, as the Colonel says, in coordination with the entities and hands from Senacica or sanitary authority, we participate directly with this works and we pay attention to the program for the control of the screwworm. I'm not going to take longer because we are late, so apologies for the interpreters if we go fast. And this difficults our work. The Natural Resources and Environment Secretary is the responsible of the wildlife and its habitat for a good use of the wildlife. That is why we will authorize and manage all these things related to wildlife, those that are with a free life and those that are under care. Could you get closer to the microphone, please? Thank you. The General Law of Wildlife in Articles 25 and 26 talk about the actions we can make in healthy manner. So, this is what we provide to the activities. They are under a legal framework, under a regulatory framework. Besides with wildlife presence, those that we directly rule are the units of management for wildlife conservation that we know as UMA, the facilities that manage wildlife coordinated on a confined manner. Maybe you look at this, Mari Palma mentioned this already. So the zoos in Mexico have this figure. They are OMA or PIMS, but at the end of the day, we work with all of them. There are PIMS and UMAs that are not zoos, but manage, have authorized in their management plan the exemplars that they have. So there is an inventory, everything is controlled in some facilities that are confined, and there are two types, those animals living in free life and those who are on a confined manner for reproduction purposes. So we also provide attention to scientific projects. So it is an important part in the surveillance of the screwworm. So they are the researchers that are at the field level looking for the specimens of the animals of interest, and they have to be reported to this General Wildlife Directorate. The scientific have the information to inform everything that has happened in the collection permit once this has expired, as well as private things. So we not only have human film, we have private collections of wildlife. This is just to mention some things. Those are some we have been working on. So soon we're going to have in this case, we will be careful to include the request for the authorizations we provide. So we need to make to report this problem. There are also the protected natural areas and those that are voluntarily destined to conservation. They participate actively in these programs. This image over here in red that represent the management units for conservation of wildlife. The UMAs, they are all over the country. We have these biologic corridors to connect the protected areas that are in blue with the UMAs to generate these biologic corridors and for the specimens to be transferred to conduct the activities all over these spaces. We have UMAs all over the country. We have particularly these UMAs that have specimens of wildlife. that are confined. And the idea is that you have this example. So we cover an important part of the national territory, and that is why we are conducting a passive surveillance. But from last April 2025 to March this year. So we have 636 of wildlife that are under confinement and free wildlife, that total 10. We're not including the domestic fauna in these cases. So I didn't want to include it in this UMAs or free life. So we have had the presence of the Central American tapir and these specimens of free life that you can see on this slide. The problem is huge, as Costa Rican colleagues said. So we have more than 2,500 species that need to be
tener estos casos en todos los ejemplares nativos, exóticos, y sobre todo, pues el gran problema son con estos endémicos, ¿no? Que pues si los perdemos para siempre del planeta. Así que tenemos este gran compromiso con la vida silvestre para hacer la vigilancia, pero pues es un problema el manejo. México tiene muchos Méxicos, es un país muy grande, ya lo decía el doctor Gómez Mendieta.
We have a large country, a mega diverse country. This forces us for the variety of species are a lot. We need to cover a lot of territory, and it is complicated to be anytime in all the places. That's why we have coordinated with different institutions and stakeholders that have strengthened this surveillance program in our country. The Colonel mentioned this already, so I don't want to take time here, so we need to move forward the presentation. What we have done, important for us, the dissemination using the 31 offices of Semarnat representation. Semarnat has an office in each state of the country. We have an agreement of role decentralization related to wildlife with the border states of the north of the country that conduct activities and similar activities like the ones we conduct. So we establish communication with them to explain how the notification is conducted in the case of a subject of a worm that could be prone to be a cattle screwworm, including all the presentation. As you can see, the Colonel has explained several times the reporting numbers, but we also we open an email to receive reports that we have been informing our proponents. The responsible parties of UMAs, the information of UMAs. So this is the email. So we can be in coordination with Senacica. Besides that, we have this number because sometimes the report is hard to get. So we try to find 1,000 ways in order for them to feel that wildlife is with them. And we are pending out the notifications. That is why we open this email address for notification purposes. We, through the communication we have with our users, we disseminate the permits granted to the request. We have done this in the use of specimens, parts of derivatives, and the authorizations for subsistence purposes. This includes each authorization, so we send this information talking about the problem presented by the cattle screwworm. So we include a legend where we say, be careful, we have a screwworm, these are the numbers for reporting purposes, and it is important that you conduct this report. The General Director of Wildlife issues 20,000 authorization a year. So we are including this legend in each one of our authorizations, besides giving this leaflets to people. If it is use of wings, but the more information could be disseminated, the better for us. So we try to find that the authorizations need to be completed for them to know what to report. So we indicating that we have the cattle screwworm presence. We have these 32 offices of territorial and environmental representation offices in the states. We have had a close communication with them, asking them to report to us because the inspection authority that will be in contact with the specimens through the scissors assurance and inspections conducted in the different UMAs and CPMs. And most of the time they can see the specimens and they can make a full physical reviews. So, and these are all over the national territory. So we are trying to get coordination to generate reports of the screwworm all over the national territory. We have also disseminated this with hunters and providers of energy services. Two main federation of hunting, and there we have provided presentations. We have inform them about the sanitary issue, and they, through their courses of responsible hunting, they have been sharing this with the hunters because hunters are also in contact with the specimens of wildlife through hunting activities, but also when they go to the field level and they are in these isolated places where the authority, it is difficult for the authority to be present. Those are people that are sleeping in these places. So their reports are going to be necessary to continue with these surveillance activities. So we keep this close communication with the hunters and we conduct all these works. Triptychs, we showed them already. We have several triptychs, and ASICA has had others as well. We're working with AICA in order to generate more information for the dissemination purposes. It always is going to be necessary to be in communication with people involved in managing wildlife. The information is here. We just want to show you some of these triptychs. We hope that many of them, that you know many of those. We have disseminated and provided training. We have had a diplomat course called Environmental View that is given to the National Guard. One of the topics given to them is the attention of the screwworm. This training is conducted in CIPS, the Center for Preservation and Research of Wildlife, CIVS. They also work with illegal traffic. So we have also the opportunity to conduct a physical review of the specimens. And we got this from all over the country. And also the assurance in the airports. The Mexico City airport, one of the largest ones in the country, for example, where we can have an active surveillance of these animals. If we have any suspect animal, we will send the report immediately to Senacica. So this, we have with them coordination meetings, and we need to coordinate about the progress and the works conducted, the dissemination. Very kindly, they also inform us about the cases presented for us to take the necessary corresponding measures. Also through the image of lower right image, we include this coordination related to the dissemination of the information. We have coordination meetings when we have to explain a case. It is not the same that the things occurs on a bovine compared to a tapir. So the loss of an individual represents decrease of the population. So we need to be coordinated to provide the best dissemination and attention to the citizens to avoid the creation of false information in this regard, because this is not going to help to the process. We have conducted visits in coordination with SENASICA, with the government of the United States, and with CONAM, and we conduct visits to natural protected areas, and there we verify the trapping they conduct, and this is, we have done this in Veracruz, in Nuevo León, and nowadays they are in Tamaulipas. We have colleagues from the General Director of Wildlife with Colonel Garcia providing attention to the follow-up visits. Without further ado, we have provided this, we have given this triptychs, we have trained this number of people, and we continue providing the information through the authorizations. And the most important thing for us is to make a report as soon as possible. For us, with SENASICA, we can inform you in order to take the corresponding measures. The management is complex, as mentioned. Sometimes you only see the specimen with the wound on an advanced phase. Although we have installed many cameras, that requires a lot of work to analyze each one of these images. So the challenge is very important. We do not have all the staff required, but we're working at the limit of our capacities. We continue in coordination with all these entities. Thank you, Rocio, for the invitation. Thank you, Aika. What a pleasure to be in coordination with all these stakeholders. Thank you very much. Thank you. There are several questions that we're going to leave to answer them later. I just want to answer two. There is one question asked to colleagues of Costa Rica about reptiles. Remember that this myiasis affects animals of hot blood. Maybe for other parasitosis is pertinent. Another question is how to kill the larvae, or the way you can. So prevent the larva in the ground not to go down, because once they go down the earth, they become a pupa and new flies emerge. The link is included in the chat box. A link for you to help us with poll survey our colleague Mariana has made. It's a form of participatory exploration. We do not have time to do this, but please copy the link or open it directly from the chat box. In order to have your answers, we really thank you the participation of SENASICA, Semarnat, Senasa, and SAT from Costa Rica, Dr. Mari Palma, representing ASCAM, from the ASCAM delegation, and those of you who participated with your questions, great comments. The link is in the chat box. It is a form. It is included within the chat, in the chat box, and we can see it here on the screen. Thank you, Dr. Claudio. So I want to thank Mariana, Ricardo, our interpreters, who are always active and updated with the presentations. Thank you so much. Our pleasure. Maria, would you like to make a final comment? Victor, go ahead. So we want to thank everyone, because it is impressive to see the cooperation and the organization of Rocio. And I give the floor to Dr. Campuzano. We want to thank you for this forum to talk, because the case of Costa Rica, we hope we're going to establish communication. We keep systematic communication and participation with the stakeholders. It has been vital to have updated reports. We are in coordination with Colonel Garcia. We're trying to take care of this as soon as possible. Thank you for your participation and continue reporting in case of suspect of a screwworm. Thank you to the students and internships that are with us. It is very important that you have this interest in cooperating and participating, and that as countries, not only as Mexico, but as the whole region, we can eradicate the screwworm again. We succeeded 30 years ago once, so now we have more technology. So for sure we're gonna succeed, but we depend on the support of everybody. So our obligation is to report, to communicate, to notify, and all of us need to cooperate. Thank you so much. I invite you for tomorrow. We're going to have the webinar of the prevention and control of the screwworm of the new world, as it is known in Central America. In this case, for pigs. So we're going to have Formex participation and as a Ibero-American organization. So we hope to see you there tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye.